You know who's writing about all this is Jim Vandehei, about
no
Republicans
way.
trying to find their footing. Let's bring in the Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, MSNBC political analyst Eugene Robinson, and the co-founder and CEO of Axios, Jim Vandehei. So, Jim, we kind of walked right into your column. Let's read from it. It's titled The Rising Democratic MAGA Movement. You write Democrats needing, quote, their own version of a populist, anti-establishment, MAGA-like makeover. So what does that look like, Jim?
Yeah, it looks like what you were just talking about with Gavin Newsom, right? Trying to adopt a lot of the techniques that you saw from Trump, that you've seen from MAGA. Get on social media, be a warrior, curse a lot, try to have a lot of edge, insert yourself into the news cycle. I think the bigger part, though, is what you've seen happening in New York, what you've seen happen in Minneapolis, the popularity of Bernie Sanders, the number of people turning out for AOC events, that right now the momentum in the party is very much for the very progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which is not that much of a shock, but I think is probably problematic in the off-year elections for Democrats. It's just not where the vast majority of the country seems to be. I think it's one of the reasons that the Democratic brand overall is low. And so I think that's an important thing to watch. And in terms of your conversation about the backlash to the bill, to me, this is going to be a really, really important conversation 3 months from now. In 3 months, we're going to know what's happening with redistricting. If Republicans can really rewire the map in a way where they could pick up anywhere from 5 to 10 seats, that is meaningful. That is deeply, deeply meaningful. It's harder in these Democratic states to do it. It's easier in Texas and Republican states to do it. The other is watch the next month. If inflation does what I think inflation's going to do, it is going to be deeply, deeply problematic for the Republican Party. If you look at what's happening with the stock prices of Chipotle or Sweet Green or any of these restaurants where people take their money when they have a little bit extra and go and spend it, they're all tanking. If you look at what you're hearing from Home Depot, your Walmarts and others, they're basically saying, listen, we've absorbed as much of a loss as we can from the tariffs. Come August, we have to start passing that on to consumers. If that happens in home goods, if that happens in groceries, if that happens in autos, which I think could be the next piece to fall, that is going to make all of this talk about the bill that much more problematic, because you're going to say, wait a second, what Joe was saying was right. They legitimately did get a massive tax cut, especially if you're super wealthy or you're running a big company. And a lot of people who were on Medicaid were requiring these government programs. Yes, there's some fraud, but yes, there's a lot of people who are authentically not going to get benefits tomorrow that are getting them today. That's when this becomes much, much more than a sideshow at one specific event. It becomes a deep, deep systematic problem for the Republican Party.
Well, and Gene, the problem is a lot more than just Jay Powell. You look at two things. You look at the jobless claims, which caused somebody to be fired, and then you look at how hot inflation ran last month. I think it was 0.9. They're expecting 0.2 or 0.3. That's really even before you start figuring out if the tariffs are in fact going to be passed on. A lot of these stores are going to, give up the ghost and start passing on those tariffs. That's a lot of things happening at the same time. I do want to circle back, though, and just ask a question. Why is it that only progressives can hammer home the fact that Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos should not get massive tax cuts, the biggest tax? I don't understand it. Why are moderate Democrats, they should lead with that. I'll tell you why, because I'm a conservative. I'm a small c conservative. I am a deficit hawk. I've been a deficit hawk my entire life. And I can tell you, small c conservatives, people that like budgets balanced, people that actually don't want government to pass the largest spending bills ever, have just seen this Republican Congress led by the so-called Freedom Caucus pass the largest spending bill ever with the biggest tax cuts for billionaires, multinational corporations, and people who run monopolies in Silicon Valley. That is a conservative issue to exploit. That is a centrist issue to exploit. That is a liberal issue. That is a progressive issue. I don't understand why moderate Democrats can't lead with that as well.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, this is not a hanging curveball, right? This is T-ball. It's just sitting there on the tee, ready to be knocked out of the park. And so you're right that the Democrats who are connecting and who are breaking through tend to be the progressive wing. Now, message always has a lot to do with messenger, and some of the progressives who have broken through are charismatic, talented politicians. Whether or not you believe their views are mainstream, they're good at politics, and they're getting the message through. I guess the second thing I would say is that one thing I believe I have learned in the Donald Trump era is that the labels that we use, progressive, moderate, conservative, paleo-conservative, MAGA, whatever, those labels are fungible. Those labels don't necessarily apply anymore. So there is a lot that progressives are saying that may really connect with a lot of voters whom you would not think of as progressive. Now, there are things that progressives say that probably don't connect with those voters, but I think we're either we need some different labels or we need to just de-emphasize the labels and kind of look at what the message is, how it's connecting, and how other Democrats could make those same connections.
Jim, you write in your piece about style and how Democrats are, some of them anyway, trying to adopt almost a Trumpian style of performance in politics. Your bottom line is, though, Trump's suit fits Trump uniquely. Others who try to don it wind up looking like clowns. I'm thinking back to the 2016 election when Marco Rubio tried that on for a while. Remember that? He tried the tough talk and embarrassed himself there. Gavin Newsom's trying it, but the thing with Governor Newsom, for example, is he can go and fight. You see him in interviews with Hannity. He goes to places that a lot of Democrats don't go and can have those conversations and those debates. So what is that sort of middle ground between not being so performative, but also showing the kind of fight that Democratic voters are desperate to see right now?
Listen, Newsom's a unique political athlete, whether you like him or not. He's very, very good at it. If you listen to him on conservative podcasts, liberal podcasts, he can do what most Democrats, most politicians can't do. He can sort of go toe-to-toe. He can be edgy. He can do all those things. I'm not sure that's what the American people are looking for, right? If you fast forward to 2028, my guess is there's going to be an exhaustion with this style of politics, this style of drama, this style of name-calling. So just assuming that Trump's tactics will work for you seems like a false assumption. Going back to the point that Eugene was making, about this idea of how easy it would be to attack the fact that rich are getting richer. This isn't actually a political argument. It is an empirical argument. There's no doubt that the rich are getting a lot richer, that the poor are not getting that much richer, if getting richer at all, that tax bill undoubtedly favors the most wealthy. Then you look at your stock market and you say, what's happening? Well, most of the growth in portfolios is coming from your biggest tech companies, the top 7, the FANG companies. Well, who are those? That's your Zuckerbergs of the world, right? That's these big, big companies that are already doing well, that are getting massive assistance from the federal government. And the only people who can really invest in a lot of these companies are people who themselves are already rich, right? If you look at people who have money in 401ks or in the stock market, tend to start with a lot of money to begin with. So the rich are going to keep getting richer. This is a fantastic environment if you have money. There's no doubt about it. And I think then it always sits on top of politics, right? People are always feeling like, is the system rigged? Is the system fair? And if somebody's paying a lot more for a car, a lot more for oranges, a lot more for eggs, a lot more for stuff at the next trip to Home Depot, yes, bitterness rises. And it's why, interesting, Eugene talks about there are no labels. If you really get the Steve Bannons of the world on truth serum, they agree a lot with what Bernie Sanders is saying about the dangers of AI, about the rich getting richer, about some of the dangers in that bill going after Medicaid. They're not loud about it right now, but make no mistake, when Trump is gone, there's a bigger disconnect there than people realize, because the Bannons of the world, I would say, are tied more tightly to the working class, because they understand that's why Trump exists today. It might not be Trump's worldview per se, but it certainly is theirs.
Well, I mean, Steve Bannon will tell you just that. He's a fan of Lisa Kahn's. He believes, like me, that monopolies should be broken up. I mean, he believes, like me, that billionaires should not be getting tax cuts right now while working class Americans are struggling more and more every day. And, you know, the thing is, too, I mean, it is empirical. I mean, we're not talking about opinions here. We're talking about facts. The richest billionaires on the planet are getting a lot richer because of this bill. And working Americans are falling further and further behind. It's not even a close call. Also, again, America's national debt will go up $20 trillion over the next decade. $20 trillion. The total national debt for the first 220 years of this republic's existence, $4 trillion. So over 220 years, the United States government accumulated $4 trillion of debt. This Congress, with a bill they just passed, will allow the federal debt to go up 5 times that much in the next decade. Why did they do it? Because they wanted to give billionaires, they wanted to give multinational corporations, they wanted to give the richest of the rich, they wanted to give monopolists tax cuts. Huh? I just say, if you're a Democrat and you're running next year and you can't win in a swing district, go into something else. Like take up watercolor painting or something like that. Willie, one thing.